Greetings, everyone, and welcome. My name is Alex with the Climate Science Alliance, and today we are going to cover Climate Change 101 and explore the regional impacts of climate change for both human and natural communities across the San Diego region. Climate change is a pretty big issue in our world today, and it has significant impacts to us and the places that we love. That's why it's important that we work together to understand climate change so we can help protect our planet. So, what is it? Well, for such a big phenomenon, it's actually pretty simple. It's important to remember at first that our climate has always changed. But now, because of human activities, it is changing more and faster than it ever has. This is a result of our relationship with greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases, like carbon dioxide or methane, are produced when we burn oil by driving our cars or cut down trees in the forest, and those gases are then released into the atmosphere. There are natural sources too, like volcanoes. Now, greenhouse gases themselves aren't entirely bad. Without them in our atmosphere, we couldn't even live on Earth because it would be too cold. Greenhouse gases trap the heat of the sun and regulate the temperature of our planet. Unfortunately, because we have gotten so good at releasing those gases into our atmosphere, the Earth has become hotter and hotter, and that has caused some problems. Some of these problems you may be familiar with, like ice caps melting, sea level rise, and more. These are the global consequences of climate change. Ultimately, climate change has insurmountable evidence. Based on over a century of research, the scientific community's consensus is that Earth's climate is changing, human activity is responsible for the change in climate change will have a significant ecological, cultural, and economic consequence on our society and the world, and most importantly, that humans are able to take actions to reduce the impact of our changing climate. We know that overall, the temperature of the Earth is increasing and causing shifts in our climate, but different areas will experience these changes differently. Because of this, it is important to have information available specific to the wildlife, habitats, and people in a particular area or region. Here in San Diego, this regional downscaled information was made available in the form of the San Diego County Ecosystems Report, a document included in the 4th California Climate Assessment in 2018. This important project, led by the Climate Science Alliance, paired a team of climatologists and ecologists to compile and review the current regional climate information and research on local species and habitats that are at risk due to climate variability and other stressors. This team came together to increase our knowledge of local climate impacts and what it means for our community. We will review 4 important trends relevant to this region, focusing on temperature, precipitation, wildfire, and the marine layer. This first trend we'll be looking at is temperature. We know that the anthropogenic release of carbon dioxide and other heat-trapping gases is causing an increase of global temperatures. In San Diego, we can expect to see the daily temperature range to grow more extreme, and that heat waves will become more frequent and more intense. What does this mean for wildlife and people? Highlighted in the Ecosystems Report, Strix occidentalis, or the California spotted owl shown here, lives in old-growth forests of California, including the Sierra Nevadas and southern coastal areas. Spotted owls' plume color and breeding patterns have adapted and evolved to fit a particular climatic range. This is shown in the number of white spots they have and by breeding dependent on specific temperatures. Their diet consists of small mammals like northern flying squirrels and wood rats. Spotted owl populations are on the decline from large-scale tree mortality and habitat loss due to drought and invasive bark beetles. More frequent and intense heat waves can threaten the California spotted owl because there is a potential for temperature to exceed species thresholds. Overall, habitat ranges for many species will shift as temperatures change. Not only that, but warmer temperatures may create mismatches between food and habitat availability, as well as species migrations. More frequent and intense heat waves that are predicted will impact wildlife and people, especially younger and elderly populations. Southern California has more year-to-year precipitation variability than anywhere else in the country. As the climate changes, variability of precipitation will become more extreme, resulting in more frequent and prolonged drought, followed by intense flooding events. Extreme wet days will be wetter, which can overburden critical riparian habitats, and spring and fall will be drier, causing longer drought seasons. What do these changes in precipitation mean for wildlife and people? Highlighted in the ecosystems report, Anaxyrus californicus, or the arroyo toad, is endemic or found only to California and Baja. It has a greenish-gray pattern and ranges in size from 1.75 to 3.2 inches. The arroyo toad is nocturnal, remaining underground during the daytime. Adults migrate to streams and aquatic systems to breed. Eggs are left in the water to hatch into tadpoles. This toad is a federally listed endangered species because of habitat destruction and other threats. Spring drying of rivers and streams can decrease reproductive success for the toad, which breeds in these aquatic ecosystems. Not only that, but more intense and frequent droughts will result in changes to plant communities overall and the species they can support. These impacts of variable flood and drought conditions have significant ramifications for human communities, threatening public health, city infrastructure, agricultural productivity, and much, much more. It goes without saying that wildfire is a climate impact that many Californians are all too familiar with. While humans remain the major driver of fire activity, extreme precipitation events followed by intense droughts will make fires more intense and more frequent. This can be further exacerbated by extreme wind events. More intense and frequent fires impact plant, animal, and human communities. Though many Southern California ecosystems require fire to persist and thrive, habitat type conversions may result when areas are exposed to repeated and more intense fires. What once was an oak woodland forest may be changed to a non-native grassland because the landscape can't bounce back quickly enough before another fire hits. Moreover, repeated fires degrade habitat that endangered California gnatcatchers, such as the one pictured here, and other critical species need to live and raise their young. As with natural communities, fires have lasting and damaging effects on both people and property as well. The last of the climate impacts that we will cover today from the ecosystems report is the coastal low clouds and fog, also known as the marine layer, which strongly influences the types of plants and animals that can live along the coast, and this is because of the role it plays in cooling these areas from the impact of increasing temperature. For example, on June 20th, 2017, a record-breaking heat hit San Diego County deserts, with temperatures reaching 124 degrees Fahrenheit. Coastal Del Mar was almost 60 degrees Fahrenheit cooler because the low clouds lessened the impacts of the heat wave. Coastal low clouds and fog provides relief during hot, dry summer months and prolonged drought periods. Coastal low clouds and fog might also help reduce fire events by providing moisture to dried out vegetation. The marine layer strongly influences the residential biological community and dynamics along the coast, not just for plants and animals, but it also provides relief for human communities as well. Multiple species are limited to areas with this marine layer, like wart-stemmed ceanothus, pictured here. Future decreases in CLCF may result in shrub cover decrease and exotic grass cover, including degrading native coastal sage scrub habitat. However, the future of the marine layer under climate change is still not clear, and we need more research to help us better understand how climate change might alter this relief from increasing temperatures. So in summary, we see that daily temperature ranges are going to become more extreme. Precipitation is going to become more extreme with prolonged drought, followed by intense flooding events. That wildfires are set to become more intense and more frequent as we see across California. And that Though the marine layer provides relief during hot, dry summer months and prolonged drought periods, the future of it under climate conditions is still unclear. In summary, for what it means for people and wildlife, more generally, temperature, habitat ranges for many species will shift, and prolonged extreme heat is hard on both people and wildlife. Floods and droughts not only impact people, but also cause changes in ecosystems and the animals and plants that live in them. Wildfire will have extreme impacts to plants, animals, and human communities across the region, and that the coastal low clouds and fog, also known as the marine layer, will provide relief from drought and extreme heat for wildlife, plants, and people, though its future is still unknown. If we are to make our natural and human communities more resilient to climate change impacts of all of this, we must work together. Now that we have a better understanding of climate change and its regional impacts here in San Diego, it's important to know that we, as climate kids, scientists, and community members, play a very important role. Climate kids use science, art, and storytelling to help the Earth and have three very important jobs. The first, figuring out the problem, which we have done here, of climate change. The second, to find and explore solutions. And the third, most important, to tell the story of climate impacts in our region and beyond. It isn't hard to see that wildlife will really feel the effects of climate change here in San Diego, as well as increased human development. We can all make a difference and give wildlife a break from these threats. Here we have put together some simple tasks that we can all do to help. The first, stay on trails. Those trails are designated and designed to give you the best view of local wildlife while avoiding damage to their habitat. If you encounter wildlife, stay on the trail and admire them from a distance. The second, reducing fire risk. Clearing vegetation away from your home, toasting your s'mores in a properly made campfire ring, and maintaining outdoor equipment and vehicles to avoid sparks are simple things you can do to lower fire risk. The third, take only pictures. It may be obvious to leave animals in their habitat, but did you know that taking rocks, wood, shells, and plants from wild spaces can disturb the ecosystem too? Every piece of nature plays a very important role, so please leave it be and take a picture instead. The fourth, watch for wildlife. Watch for them at watch out for wildlife crossing roads to keep them protected. The fifth, keeping an eye on your pets. Not only is it safer for your cat to be indoors and your dog to be on a leash, it's safer for wildlife too. Supervise your pets to protect birds, insects, reptiles, and small mammals. The sixth, avoid harmful pesticides and herbicides. Using toxic chemicals to handle pests and weeds often causes unintentional harm to other wildlife. 7, making a home for wildlife. Habitat loss is a huge threat to wildlife in San Diego. Planting native vegetation, a pollinator garden, or even hanging up a bird or bat house can help support local wildlife. 8, staying up to date on regulations, being sure to review the latest state, federal, and local regulations before hunting, fishing, recreating of any kind. Following these laws can help keep wildlife populations balanced and sustainable. 9, volunteer. Volunteering to remove invasive plants, clearing trash, raising awareness. There are many ecological reserves and organizations in San Diego County where you can volunteer your time to help give wildlife a break. And lastly, and most importantly, sharing the story. Sharing what you have learned here with friends and family, and most importantly, sharing what you can do to help. There are many actions we can all take to make a difference in protecting our natural and human communities from the threats of climate change. What actions will you commit to taking today? For more information on climate change, what you can do, or to support our work, please visit us at www.climatesciencealliance.org or www.climatekids.org. That's all for today. Thanks so much for listening.